Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is the RAW file I gave you. I will show it in folder. Already, what I did is I only downloaded it from the from WhatsApp, as you can see, but you cannot open it as it is. You need a RAW file or WinRAR
Okay.
file before you can get it open, which also I don't currently have it installed on this laptop. I'll quickly come to Google and say install WinRAR free. Let me see. I have a few options here. I will go to, let me come to this one. You don't buy, it's free. I'll click on WinRAR and then I will do here, download WinRAR. Okay, so what I'm giving you is a sample of is the framework that was built in class, the robust one. Now I have the WinRAR downloaded. I have to install it now. I will click on open. It will ask me yes or no question. I've clicked on yes. Then I will do install. Then okay. Then done. Doing this will allow me to unzip the framework I share with you. I'll come to download. You see that the color has changed now, as you can
Yes.
see. I will just do right click. I will right click on that file, come to WinRAR, and then do extract to. What this one does is it will create a new folder and put everything in there for me. Let's look for it. Here it is. This is the folder. I will copy this folder, copy, bring it to document, for example, and then paste it. Paste it here. This is Windows 11. And depends on the Visual Studio you have installed. It doesn't really matter whether 2019 or 2022, it should still work. What I'll do is I will open it like this and then open it again, and here right click and open. Okay, this is Visual Studio 2019. The purpose of this one is when you start watching or following the course, in some cases, I chose not to write all, all code in probably for a particular class. For example, let's say browser factory class in the class, because the code is a lot, like maybe more than 20 lines of code. I chose to copy the code over from where I've written it before, because that will be time consuming if we start to write everything in class. That is one of the usefulness of this one. Another usefulness is you can use it as a guide if you are looking for a piece of code, maybe to make use of at work. Instead of
Okay.
you going around the circle, you can always come back here and then, get the code, copy the code over. But this does not take the fact that you need to sit down and watch the class recording. It is
That's very
very, very
true.
important.
I won't
Exactly. And
understand it
also,
without watching the class.
when you are watching, make sure you mimic what I'm doing in class as well. Type all the code out so that they become part of you. This one is the project for API automation. Uh, there are class videos for it as well for you to follow. This is a separate project I created for
Programming.
programming lessons. This one teaches programming from scratch as if you have zero knowledge of it. This is the UI automation one. Okay, and if you expand it, it has different folders: browser factory, features, model, pages. If you expand this one mimic the fact that you may have a few browsers available, within your framework. If you have, for example, now let's take Chrome browser as an example. It has different attributes or features. You can run your test using incognito. Incognito. Incognito means after running If you open your Chrome browser in incognito mode,
Cognitive.
whatever it is that you do on that browser, it won't keep the browser history. That's the usefulness of it. And this one, for example, headless. If you run your test headlessly, you will not see the browser open when you start executing your test. It will run like silent mode. You won't see it. Maximize. This by default is set to true, meaning that once a browser is launched, automatically it will be maximized. Now, code like this, when you have a similar structure within your framework, after creating a class with this same name and you have all this using in place, you can just copy this code over from here to, for example, you can see it's like a few code to write. You just copy it and then paste it in your framework. This saves you time. Another usefulness part of this is, remember, these are the key ones.
So, excuse me,
When I
sir,
say keywords,
please.
I'm referring to regardless of what your application under test is or what it is you are automating, as long as it is a UI application or web application, you definitely need all this code. Okay. So you need all of this.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, maybe you are testing for Tesco or you are testing for Audio or anything. You get my point. Now, another one is, forget about, oh, why is this red or so? See, the color has gone, but it's because I only extracted it now. You can as well, before you, if you don't want to see any red line, you can do something. If you come here, if you right click here, you can say, oh, not this one. If you right click on the solution, the topmost one, right click on it and do restore Nuget packages. I will
Oh,
expect you to have internet connection. When you click on restore Nuget packages, you see that something is happening here. As you can see,
yes.
it says Nuget package restored.
Restore.
You can
Finished.
close this one. And after doing that, you can come to build, you can do clean, and then you can then do rebuild.
Good solution.
Okay, let's see exactly. You see that it says rebuild all succeeded,
Succeeded.
and we've stopped seeing all the red lines. So these are the things that you do when you first clone a solution to your local environment or when you copy code over. As long as there was no error from where it was copied over. So when you also take it to the destination, there's still going to be any issues. And again, just right click on the solution up here and then do restore NuGet packages. That is important. Then you clean and rebuild. Another usefulness, I'm sorry, another code that is useful here is if you come to set up this WebDriver extension, you have many things here. This is the method I wrote for to find elements. Okay, this is another one, set implicit timeout, switch off implicit waiting, many ones. If you want to see all the method here, you can come up here, click on it. It lists all the method we have on this class or in this class, as you can see. So if you want to refresh window, this is the code you use. If you want to scroll into view, if you want to select option by text from a drop-down menu, this is the code you use. If you want to see the code itself, you can click on it. It takes you directly to where the method is. You can see. This is why I said this is the industry standard framework that you want to make sure you have something similar in place. But before you have it in place, you need to understand how it works. And how will you understand how it works? You need to follow the class recording. You understand? Especially between UI automation video starts from video 16. By the time you watch it till probably video 20 or 21, you will be done with it. And then you will understand this framework better and how to navigate around and how to set up one for your own self to look like this particular one. If this is another class for database interaction. But remember, application under test varies from an organization to an organization. The application under test I use for this training, they are called cost management. See, cost management. That is UI application. Why the one for API is called task
Yes.
management, which is
Tax
for
management.
API. So by the time you have, now I know you have Visual Studio installed already. By the time you have SQL Server Management installed into your personal laptop, I will set up another meeting with you to
Okay.
deploy those two applications for you. So that when you start watching the class recording, the discussion are already tailored to those two applications and you will be able to follow the class easily. Now, what the essence of this clarification is that for your own application under test at work, you may not have a need to have a few classes here. Like you may not have a need to have database helper if your code, if your script will not be interacting directly with a database. Okay, you don't need it. Also, obviously, your features will not be the same as this. Your own feature will depend on the list of test cases you are automating. If you
Login.
get my point,
Yes.
isn't it? Exactly.
Yes.
And if you also take a look at this feature file now, it has a few test cases with different flavors, with different way of writing tests. For example, this is one way of writing test or scenario. It takes in test data to the step definition that you can make use of. Also, it has validation around here, you can see. And another way of writing test cases is within your test case or within your scenario, you can as well have a table the way I have it here. Okay. So if you go to the step definition under this one, if you right click and do go to definition, you can see how this is implemented. The one in line number 17, it takes a parameter called table. At runtime, what happens is it will get the data from here. The family name will come from here. The first name will come from whatever it is you put here, and the enrollment date. Uh, you can as well mimic something similar for your own work framework if you have a need to do so. And then this is also another way, scenario outline. We use scenario outline when we have a need to cover more scenarios for a similar test case. What do I mean by that? For example, if you have a login page we have, for example, username, password, and login, isn't it? Now,
Yes.
you may want to mimic you may want to have in place a few scenarios whereby you want to test for valid username and valid password. That is one test case. Another test case might be test for valid username, invalid password, which obviously the result for that should be a user should not be allowed login. A user should not be able to log in successfully. The
Yes.
third test case might be invalid username and valid password.
Password.
Also, a user should not be able to log in successfully. Why number four test case might be invalid username and invalid password, which shouldn't also allow a user to log in successfully. Now, instead of writing four scenarios for the example I gave you now, instead of writing four of these, you can just write one and then make use of scenario outline and then
Okay.
have four records in place. So at runtime, what will happen is this will change automatically to four tests. That is the usefulness of scenario outline. Again, when you start watching the class recording, you will see more explanation around it. And another important feature of this framework is we isolate all the URL, the browser selection, uh, a few more things into one place. For example, if you come to context class, you will see that here you will not see any URL. And also we have option here to select a browser that we are using for the test. This is Firefox, Chrome, IE, and the default one. If a user does not select any browser, by default, it will make use of Chrome browser. Okay, now, where do we put the URL? The URL is here. is in local run settings. If you notice, I have a few things here. Base URL. This is the local, this is the URL for the application under test. Also, this one has a place to select browser you want to use for your test. If you change this one to IE and you start a test, it will call Internet Explorer browser. Let's put it to how it was before. So this is where you come to choose what to use. And if your test uses or has any interaction with database management system, this is where you can see I put connection string here. This is the detail that C# need to successfully log into the database at
Mm.
runtime so that interaction can be established between your script and the database table. Okay, you also want
Yes.
to make sure you mimic something similar for your automation framework by making sure that you have run settings. But one thing with run settings is if you want to run your test, you cannot just come here and say, oh, I want to right click and run. You need to select the run settings file first. How? You come to test, you come to configure run settings, you then come to select solution wide run settings file, which will now ask you to go into the file or folder where the run settings file is. Based on the fact that I know about this, I know that this is the uh, UI automation project. This is the folder for it. I will double click and then come down. You can see I will just double click or single click and open. Once I do that, if I come back to test, configure run settings, you see that by default, the local run
Local run
settings
set.
is selected, meaning that at runtime, it will automatically get the URL from here. It will get the browser to use for the test from here. It will also get the connection string for database interaction. It will get it from here. So now if you run your test, it will work. But it may not work for me as well because I don't think on this laptop, I don't think I've deployed course management system. Let me see. If I have, that means you see, because I've not deployed that application for myself, I won't be able to run any test. But if I change this one to google.com, for example, it will go to Google. Only that on getting to Google, it will not be able to see any of these elements because it is not, this application is not for Google. Am I making sense?
Yes. Please, I have a quick question on this page.
Sorry?
I have a quick question on this page.
How what?
A quick question on this page.
Okay, what is the question?
The given and when. Why is it asterisk? Like, why is hash sign in front of it?
No, no, no. No, this is a comment. I
Um.
commented it out because that is why I said when you watch the class video,
Okay.
you will
Okay.
see different things I did. I can
Okay.
see, I can put it back to how it was, like on comment. See, I uncommented it now. But the thing is, I have up here background. What background means is any step you bring to the background will execute first before any of the test cases get executed. But if you take a look properly at what I have here on the background, it is the same thing. What I have in line number 7 and 8 are the same as what I have in line number 12 and 13, isn't it? Take a look at it and confirm that. Can you
Yeah,
see
that's
that
correct.
what I have in line number 7 and 8 are the same thing as what I have in line number 12 and
2013.
13, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that is why we don't want, we are not, we shouldn't be repeating the step
Okay.
that executed already. So that's why I commented this out. But obviously, for this is for training purpose. At work, you will not comment it out like this and leave it. What you will do is you will delete it because that is if you have extracted a few steps
In
up
the background.
to be under background. And
Mm.
how will you know what to put on the background? It is simple. Anything that is common to, or that will be common to all your test cases, even if you have 500 to 1,000 test cases to execute automatically, those steps that they have in common and that we follow each other can be brought to the background. You see two conditions I put there. They have in common and that we follow each other. It's not that, oh, though they will all have this in common and this in common. And you will now say you are bringing these two to the background. Remember, this one will, the number 8 will execute immediately after number 7. But according to your need here, number 12 or number 16 will only get executed after number 13, 14, and 15 have been executed. So it will not make any sense to bring number 12 and 16 together and put them under background simply because all test cases we need them. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah, so that is how to navigate around this one. And this is what your work framework should look like. Also, if you don't, you may need this model as well. If you can see on the model, family, these are property. We call them property in C#. Get set, get set, get set. This is also being taught already in the programming class. When you have time, go and watch it. And
Okay.
what else? If you come back to students, if you come back here, you will see that for students, we have test data, this one. No, not for this particular one. It is actually for this one. For example, okay, yeah, for this one, for this table, it's because of this table we created this model, this student model, okay, just to extract data from the scenario or from feature file and then make use of that data in step definition. What other thing do I need to explain? And another thing is, let's say you have a course management system installed here and you have the database connection set. What does that mean? If you unzip this same solution to your local laptop, a few things you have to do before you can successfully run this one is, first one, I've done it. You right click on the solution, you restore NuGet packages,
Package.
you clean and you rebuild. After that, you need to come to the run settings and then make sure you have the correct URL, you have correct browser selected. And lastly, this is my own database connection username. It will be different from yours. You need to make sure you select the right um, login details for your database. And even when this one was built, it was built on a separate laptop. This is another laptop now. If I'm to run this same framework here now, it is my responsibility to change the username. What do I mean? I have to come here and do, let me see if I already have SQL Server Management Studio installed. Oh, I don't currently have it installed there. Had it been I do, I will load it up and get the login detail, the username, that I use to log into SQL Server Management Studio. Whatever it is, I have to come here and replace it with what I currently have here. Okay.
Okay.
So once I replace it and I have Course Management Studio installed, those are the things that I need to run the test. That is the overview around this one. And and if you want to see, oh, what are the tools that were put together? Oh, one more thing I need to explain here. As part of, if you want to run this one, you need to make sure that the browser version you have installed locally, or let's say, yeah, the browser you have installed locally has the same version as what we have on this framework. What does that mean? You need to come here, launch your Chrome browser. Let me launch this one. You come here and do help and do about Google Chrome. You see, this is updating. I need to allow it some time. 1 second. Now this is the browser version 104054. Now if I come back to the framework, all I have to do is to come to references, right click, and come to manage Nuget packages, and then come to install, search Chrome. Now, this is what we use at the time of training, but it is no more in use. All you have to do to start with is to get rid of this one. I will just click on this red thing and then click on install. So it's gone now. Now, how do we put a newer version back? Come to browse and leave this Chrome. As you can see, this is now Selenium WebDriver Chrome driver. Select it and then go back to your local browser version, which is 104051. You now need to select it. Don't do the latest one because latest one is now 105. This is the one you need, 1041. Then do install. Okay. And then you can then clean and rebuild, clean and rebuild. That's it. So those are the things you need. And then after this, you can then successfully run the test. Though the purpose of what I'm sharing with you is actually for you to have like a benchmark, a framework you can refer to when you are stuck with your work, or when you need like code to copy over to your framework. That is the usefulness of this. But everything here was built in class. And
Okay.
once again, once you follow the class videos, you will see everything. Yes. What else? 1 second. Let me see.